Excellent.
Excellent. Continue. Okay, beautiful. Okay, excellent. So tell me, let me know when you are ready to start.
Oh, we're ready.
Ready? Excellent.
Ready. Everybody,
Okay,
please mute. Sami, mute, please.
So gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank every one of you for joining the class, especially our president for making, for allowing this class, these sessions to be happening. I think there's a lot that's going to be said and be taught, but I think the most important thing is to hear the feedback on your end, because there's a lot of information that I could give, and usually when you give a course of voice training, which is essential to Chazanut, prior to sing, you need to know how the vocal cords work. And the reason for that is, number one, there's a few things that I would like to share. Is maybe I could do that. Hold on a second. I want to share a screen, and it goes as follows. Let me see if I could get that. Why is it not opening? Okay. So the first thing is to understand how the vocal cords work. As you could see, can everybody see the picture? Yeah. So the vocal cords are basically is that they're formed like a V. Okay. Healthy vocal cords are pink. I myself had some problems throughout my career because, again, I used it very, very often. And one of the things that happened was I formed some kind of thing that's called a polyp or a nodule, which is usually either on the bottom, it could be on the bottom. It's like a little bump, or on the top. And what happens, the healthy vocal cords are like this. They have to close like this completely, because if they don't, then if there's like a bump here in the middle or on the top, so obviously there's airflow, right? It's just like when it's cold outside, it's -30, and if you have your window open, so the heat is going to flow, it's going to go out. You don't want that. You want to keep the heat inside. And again, so the vocal cords are very important to keep them healthy, and being healthy, they have to be pink. I generally tell people, not because of your singing or anything else, in general, everyone should have their vocal cords checked in a regular basis. I had people in general that even though they didn't sing, they shared their own problems, and I told them what to do. For example, if someone drinks a lot, if someone smokes, obviously the color changes. It affects the vocal cords, it burns, and it's all related. The ears, nose, and throat. That's why we have a doctor that is related. Everything is connected. The ears, nose, and throat are connected to vocal cords, because when you breathe in through your nose, it filters through your vocal cords, and it gives the warmth to your vocal cords. But if you breathe in from your mouth, right? Let's say it's -30, and you breathe in through your mouth, right? Like once straight, automatically you will take it the same way. And if you look carefully, it's the same way as if you look at, for example, athletes, swimmers. What they do is before they swim, they let go every part of their body. It's all their body is connected. And if you breathe properly, and that's one of the things that they do, is they relax the larynx and the vocal cords as well. So they breathe in through the nose and they take it out from the mouth slowly. The only difference is when we sing, we can't do that too long, because if you take so much time to breathe in through your nose, you'll have to cut so many times. So what you do is you breathe small portions, right? And when you take out, you don't take out 100%, but you take out 80% of the air. What does that mean? It's just like a balloon. Is you fill it up with air, and then you let the air go out slowly. You let it go out. You don't let it go, because if you let it go, all the air is going to go very fast, and you lose that air. You want to keep it as much as possible. On the other hand, you don't want it to make it heavy, and you don't want it to be tired as well to your chest and to your body. So I'm not going to go into into all the details of what is necessary in order to to sing, but let's start with that. So I just showed you what vocal cords are. In general, I strongly recommend, I do visit my ENT doctor twice a year, usually before the high holidays and the other time before Passover. And the reason for that is because of the weather. Usually when we have people that suffer with allergies, usually they suffer with their vocal cords, and we need to make sure that they're in healthy. So what does it mean healthy? Not only being pink, but making sure that they're moist. And usually that what I always tell people is always have a bottle of water next to them if they feel that they feel pressure in their vocal cords. Again, I'm not going to go again to all the details. So those are one of the things. The other thing is, in order to be a Hazzan, one of the things is you need to, I don't know why I see this, but hold on. So the other thing is that there is a warm-up. Like any other thing, like any other athlete, you need to warm up your vocal cords. And your body has to be in healthy. So here's the different ways that you could see as well. But I don't know why I can't see. Hold on. No. Okay. Oh, here it is. So this is now that we saw the shape of the vocal cords, we're just going to go a little bit about what are the warm-ups, and that I could share that afterwards with Itzik, and then you could all read it. And there's five secret tips to make your voice sound better. So there's vocal fix, right? And what you do is, obviously, when you normally sing is first thing in the morning, you sing and you need to warm up, unless if you're snoring all night. So there's no warm-ups because you've been snoring the whole night, 8 hours. Obviously, your vocal cords are in good shape. Hopefully, they're in good shape. The only problem is that they're dry because the amount of air that you breathe in. But you need a warm-up in any case, first thing in the morning. And what are the warm-ups? Is the A, E, I, O, and U. There's something called a chromatic pitch pipe, which I'll show you later. And it's basically you take a note and you say A, E, O, U, and you take the same note and you just practice the same thing, and you just form and you stretch those muscles. Now, the stretching part is more important than anything else because the whole night your mouth was closed. Hashem created us. It's amazing how God created us in a certain way. As you know, when we built a synagogue, Orthodox synagogues do not have microphones. And therefore, what we do is we make sure that the acoustics is very good inside the sanctuary. How do we do that? Stage number one is we make sure that there's a dome. If you look places of worship such as synagogues, churches, all those mosques, any places, usually they have a dome. What's the dome about? Because God created us a dome inside our mouth, which is the palate. So the voice comes. There's the air where is the lungs. It goes up to the vocal cords. The vocal cords vibrate, create sound, and then it travels to the palate. Now, in order to travel to the palate, you need to make sure that you open your mouth properly. How do you open your mouth properly? Is you stretch these muscles. And I always say, I call it, when I teach my students bar mitzvahs, I tell them is to stretch your muscles. Just like any athlete, you need to stretch your muscles, because if you could technically play and in the field, the only difference is that if you get hurt, it's going to be hard. You're going to have a hard time to recover. So if you stretch your muscles properly, it'll be much, much, much easier for you to recover. So what do you need to do first thing in the morning? I call it funny face, is to go like this and stretch this and open it for about 30 seconds. Doing so, it'll be much easier when you're singing. It's going to be much easier to open. It's going to be effortless. So that's the first things you need to practice, the vowels A, E, I, O, and U. And you take that with the chromatic pitch pipe. You could actually you could look at it on your app on your phone. I'll show it to you in a minute, just a second. And it's called chromatic pitch pipe. I just want to show you how it looks like. Chromatic pitch. Here we go. Where is it? Oh, here it is. So it looks like this. Okay. This is it. It's called chromatic pitch pipe. Okay. and it goes from C to C. You have on the top, you have it even on piano. By the way, that's how they tune the piano as well. Hold on. Here we go. Can you hear it? Maybe. Hold on, maybe. Hold on, here. Maybe the chromatic pitch might be a little better. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si, do. So you go. So if I were to take the C, I would take the okay? You take the C and you press. Okay, so everybody, let's do it together. So the first thing you need to know the note, just to make sure that you hear the note properly, is C. So that your ear gets used to it. I don't know if you noticed that, by the way, the Moroccans, the Paitanim, I don't know, many, and even the Arabs, they tend to put the hand next to their ear. God created the form of the ear to be able to hear the note properly. If you do it like this, if you put your hand next to it, do it again and try to say ah, say ah. You hear it? You see ah, doesn't it? Don't you hear the sound stronger? It's just like it makes it amplifies it, right? No, not like this, but you put it inside, right? Like a small, exactly. And then you say you hear it? Right? It's stronger. So that the purpose is for two reasons: that if there's noise around you, you keep the sound next to you and you hear it clearer. So those are the ways to do it. So chromatic pitch pipe is a key thing to have. Now you're going to ask me, Rabbi, how do you do on Shabbat? Shabbat, there's no chromatic pitch pipe. So people, those are the musical. There's a watch that is called Bulova, which is made with an acrytron movement, and that has a la sound. From that note, they bring it down to other notes, and that's how they figure out what note to sing and how to sing. Especially when you're singing with a choir, it's even more difficult. But when you're singing by yourself, it's much easier. So those are the ways to do it. Now, the first thing is to warm up. Okay, so that's the number one. The think down for high notes. This is another thing very important, is when you're singing high, the natural way of thinking is that you're going to raise up your head because I'm going high, but it's the opposite. When I'm singing high, I need to think low. That means it's just like the elevator. What brings the elevator up? It's the weight. So the weight brings down in order to bring the note down. So if I sing high, right? If I need to think low, I'll give you an example, right? So if I say, yeah, okay, yeah, if I go like this, yeah, right, the same note, but I'm raising up my chin, yeah, it already thins out the sound. Whereas if I bring my chin at a horizontal way, so the sound gives more openness. I'm not tightening up the vocal cords, which means I'm thinking low, but I'm going high, right? Yeah. You hear the difference? It's effortless, but I'm opening. Whereas if I raise up my head, I'm thinning out the vocal cords because I'm going up, right? Even though naturally, logically, the way that a person would think that if I'm going up, I'm going to raise my head. It's wrong. It's the opposite. The same thing, if I'm going low, I need to think high. I'll give you an example, right? So for example, if I look, I'm thinking high because I'm going low. Whereas if I go, it's the same note, but I'm going like this. No, I don't need to do that. So I need to keep my chin on the horizontal form, right? Always straight, not high, not low, straight, right? And think, again, if I'm going high, I need to think low. If I go down, if I go low, I need to think high. Or if I go, Same note. You hear the difference? So if I keep my chin in the right position, now the question is, I'm standing here as in front of a Hazzan, I'm in front of the bima, the teva, and I'm singing. Obviously, the siddur is in front of me. What am I going to do? So the way I need to do it is I need to hold the siddur. How am I going to do it? So I need to hold a book. And that's why there is a book. And I hold it in a way like this. I'm keeping my chin always the same format, yet my book is a little bit higher. But I don't want to close my face, because what happens if I close my face, I'm preventing the sound to travel. So I need to keep it a little bit further so that the voice goes that direction. Okay, so those are very important. So that creates more sound in the way of singing. That's very important. That's number one. The other part as well is how you're standing. I know in Magen David, you have, in most synagogues, people do it. In synagogues, they have carpet where the Hazzan is. So I would say never have that carpet, because the carpet absorbs the sound. So what you need to do is you put a piece of plywood, a thin one, a piece of plywood on the bottom, so you'll hear the voice is going to bounce. Obviously, the synagogue in Magen David you're very lucky that you have a very high ceiling. Some synagogues are very low. Again, if you have the right thing on the bottom, the voice will project, and that's very important where you're standing. So more power. What we were trying to do here is you have more power, which is number 3. More power without strain. Your singing is not about screaming. It's about singing, right? You need to know the technique of what to do and how to do it. So the sound is very important. So you want to give the amount of power and without strain. And the most important thing is not only that, is that when you're singing from the beginning, in the middle, and the end, it should sound the same. It should not be in the beginning, I'm full of energy, so I'm giving 100%. It's like somebody has $1,000. You're not going to spend $1,000 and you have only a week to your travel. You're going to keep your $1,000 and make sure that you spend $800 and you keep $200 or $300 aside just in case, right? So that you have savings just for some surprises. You don't want to start from the beginning put everything down and spending everything down. So the same thing with the voice. You need to save energy. And we're going to talk about this in many ways, because this is going to happen for the high holidays. It's going to happen for Shabbat, especially when you have someone that does most of the services. How does he do it? How does he pray on a fasting day? And what should be done? And how much what should be done? Or what should you eat? In the morning, should you take some lemon or a coffee, things like that. So there's different foods that you're not supposed to take first thing in the morning, because it coats the vocal cords, such as anything that is dairy. You should not take something warm, room temperature. Yes, you should have a bottle of water. You should always have next to you just in case. And the best way to neutralize your vocal cords is always swallow. Never go, because what you're doing is you're causing your vocal cords doing this, that. You don't want that to happen. You're straining your vocal cords. You want to bring them as close as possible and as smooth as possible. So how do you do that? By swallowing, but swallowing normally. Don't strain it, because again, here there's muscles that everything has to be released. So those are things are important. Now, this is as you see here, the last one, which is the earphones. A good vocal tone is not established by singing loudly. We think that by singing loudly, and whoever sings loudly is the one that is really the top. That's not true. That's not true. The one that knows how to start and how to be, there's a beginning, a middle, and the end, and he does it the same way and effortless. That is the most important thing. So that's concerning the voice in itself. Now, there are some laws pertaining. Can you see this as well? The Shaliach Tzibur as well. Am I sharing? Are you able to see it? Yeah, there's laws as well. I could share that with you, Itzik, afterwards. We could see it. let me see if, I don't know why I can't see it. Something's blocking. I don't know why it's blocking. Okay, so there's laws of pertaining to Shaliach Tzibur. I'm not going to go into all the details, but I think it's very important to understand that a Hazzan is to understand what is the purpose of Shaliach Tzibur. The word Shaliach Tzibur is a messenger of the congregation. And that's key to everything, to what Hazzan is all about, is to understand that he's a messenger of the congregation. He is not there to impress of who he is and what he is, but he is, as it says, a Hazzan manhig et tefillah. He's the one that leads the prayers. And that's very, very important. So many things like back, and it says, Pa'amim shekol ha'kahal omer ito et hatfilah, v'hu koveh et haketzev. He is the one that is a leader. He's the motor, he's the vehicle to the synagogue to lead the services. So if you do it, if he knows what he's doing, then everything goes well. A good Hazzan doesn't necessarily need to sing every single piece of the prayer, but is to be able to understand and to balance what the prayers is all about. For example, we're going to learn as well, such as for example, the holidays. It's very common that we're getting close to the high holidays coming soon. We're going to learn about that as well. Is that the practice among Sephardic, especially the Moroccans, is that the Amidah of the high holidays, we say it out loud, right? Even though it's a quiet Amidah. Why? Because it's not common. It's not common words for many reasons. Maybe someone doesn't have a machzor. That's number one. Prayer book. Number two, these are words that don't come up every weekend. So people are not used to it. And number three, ultimately, is making sure that everybody finishes approximately the same time. Because if we were to wait for everyone, it'll take forever. And again, that's what it takes to have a Hazzan, to think about, not about himself, but to engage the people in his tefillah and to bring everybody together as one. And that's what Shaliach Tzibur. He's a messenger of the congregation, right? So there's a few laws here that talk about what is a Hazzan and what a Hazzan should be for the high holidays. As it says, one or the holidays or Shabbat, it says something very interesting. It says, "Aval piken tzichim lagabayim lishtadel she'chazanim haolim lifnei hativa iyu hagunim." When you have a gabais or someone in charge who's going to go up to as being Hazzan, you have to make sure that is the right person, a person that takes in consideration, knows what he's doing. He knows the laws more or less, Shomrei Torah mitzvot, that he's observant as well of mitzvot, Shatzibur yaskim shiyu shlochav as well. It's very important that the congregation agrees that he's the messenger and he would represent them. At the end of the day, he's the one that represents them when it comes to say the repetition of the Amidah as well for Kaddish. And obviously, B'tfilat Shabbat v'Yom Tov, on the prayers of Shabbat and holidays, obviously, he's not going to put some songs that are not related, and he needs to know and to connect. For example, he's not going to do this Shabbat a tune of the high holidays when it's not the high holidays. He knows what he's doing. If he's putting a tune that is related to whether it's a wedding or something, he knows where to put it and how to put it, right? You can't. That's what a Hazzan is all about. It should be someone that is na'im, someone that you could hear and enjoy his prayer, right? And he has a nice voice, and that he is musical. Because if he's not, that it obviously nobody wants to listen, right? And it makes people uncomfortable. So those are things very important. Let me stop just for a few minutes and let me ask if there's any questions, and then we move on to the next step. Hello?
Rabbi, can you elaborate a little bit about food? You said just so morning time, what can you eat before, let's say, Shabbat?
So obviously, so in the morning, what I would recommend is to have tea. Don't put too much lemon. Put a little bit of how do we say honey, right? I'll share you some personal problems that I had. I had some problems with acid reflux. We age, we change, our bodies changes, So I do still take some medication, for example, Nexium, which is anti-acid reflux. But again, I was monitored by the doctor and making sure that everything's in place. Why? Because what happens is that when you're sleeping, for example, at night, Friday night, you have not a regular meal. And obviously, if you like hot pepper, it's not good. It's good, it's tasty, it opens the appetite. Yet what happens is it creates more acidity inside your stomach. And what happens is when you're sleeping, the acid makes the digestion much easier. But what happens if you're lying down straight, so the acid goes up to the vocal cords. And lo alenu, that's where chas v'shalom, I don't want to say, but people could get, with time, they could get cancer. Because again, this is acid. When you take, for example, you take Coca-Cola, you put it on metal. I don't know if you ever seen that, and you see how the Coke is able to remove the chaluda, the rust. So imagine acid, what it does on a vocal cord, which is very, very, very delicate. And if you put that, you lose, and that's where people have trouble. Sometimes they come out hoarse. But that's one of the reasons. Sometimes people have other problems, which is allergies. So I had some issues, in different places where I travel. So what I do is there's different medication for the nose to clear the nose, right? Sometimes you're traveling or sometimes at home. If it's wintertime, the heat is too high. So what you do is you shouldn't open the window because again, you have cold air. So I've done different things is either put a humidifier, right? So it creates humidity in the room, or I take a wet towel and I place it where the heater is, and it creates humidity inside the room. So when I sing, when I wake up in the morning, my voice is not dry. So again, that dryness, to avoid that dryness, I need to drink water. The vocal cords need to be moist. And that's very, very important all the time. And the more you sing, obviously the vocal cords as well, they dry up. So you need to constantly drink water. Now you're going to ask me the question, well, how do you do that now with Yom Kippur? So Yom Kippur, don't wait till Yom Kippur comes. A week before, start drinking more water. Your body needs to get used to that. Okay? So that obviously when you're drinking, you don't need to drink as much. So, and obviously Yom Kippur you can't drink. So you'll be more, you won't be dehydrated. So you'll be fine. And drink normally. And that's one of the things. But there's foods, each one's, for example, like I said, it could be like chocolate is not good, coffee is not good, hot pepper is not good, smoking is not good, screaming. If you're talking all day, obviously you should always have a bottle of water. Teachers have problems as well. So all these things are very effective. And most importantly, out of everything, it's not only about food, but your body needs to rest. You need to sleep. If your body is tired, right? I don't know if you notice that even during the week, if your body is tired, even if you have strength or you want to push it, you're going to feel that your voice is hoarse. And why? Because your body is tired. You need to rest. So that in itself is very, very important. So those are the things that are important. Any other questions? Okay. All right. So the next part, I think we have a good half hour. I want to spend some time. I'm just giving you general ideas, but if anybody has any questions in particular that you want to share privately, things that you experience on your own in singing, please feel free to send me either through text or through email. Itzi could send the contact, and I'll feel free to ask, and I will answer the questions. Those are very, very important as well. Anybody here had or has had in the past the experience of praying in front of the congregation? Those are very important question to ask. And I would like to hear maybe some, just a few comments of what their experience is, or maybe one of the positive things and what's the negative way they feel of when they've performed in front of a congregation. So one positive and one negative. Maybe somebody could share. I would love to hear, and then I'll give you my feedback.
I'll start.
Mute.
No. Many times I'm Hazzan, and I would like to come with new melody, well-known melody, but I forget the melody. But I give to myself pointers. למשל, בערבות הנגב, אז ישיר משה ובני ישראל. So that's easy. But many times I forget which melody I want to use. That's my problem, number one. Number two, I learned something very important. In the morning, I do the first part of the prayer, and my voice is complete me. I have, comment on dit d'éclair?
Flame, flame.
I focus in the morning and I say,
Yeah.
learn it's wrong. But I have a bottle of water next to me. So to drink is better than anything, right?
Correct.
Okay,
So
what about the, for instance, last week I read the Haftarah of Hazzan.
נכון.
So the Moroccan sings Hazzan of
נכון.
I forgot the melody. It took me like 2, 3, 4 minutes to
Okay.
come back. I came back.
Yeah, but how did you start? If I may ask, how did you start the brachot?
Brachot, I think it was not, I forgot.
There you go.
And then to go to Hazzan, I completely forgot.
That's because I was in Israel. Otherwise, I would.
It's
No, it starts from the brachot, right?
נכון. It starts from the brachot. נכון. You're right. So if you were to have started from the brachot, things would have been different. So Sami, I think you have a point. I had the same issues back in the early years. I had a paper where I would say the Kaddish, this is the tune, and this is the tune for El Adon, and so on and so forth. So obviously with time, you change and you look at, you come with a plan. You come with a plan of what you want to do and how you want to do it. But what I suggest you, in your case, is if you have in particular certain tunes that you'd like to share throughout the weekend with your congregation, I suggest you, sing it a few times during the week. So it's going to be common to you. If you're planning to, if you went to a wedding and you heard someone sing a song, it's, oh, that's a great tune. But you didn't go over it a few times yourself.
Yeah.
How do you expect it to remember it? Is that you say, oh, that was amazing. I want to remember the tune of that wedding. It doesn't work like that. It's a great reference, but that's not enough. What you need to do is practice yourself how and where you want to put it, in which piece you want to put it in the tefillah, right? So those are very, very important things. I could give you many different examples. If you take, for example, Agadelcha, right, of Shabbat as a period, Agadelcha, and you could do it as Kaddish, but you have to, in the beginning, you need to say to yourself, okay, so my tune is Agadelcha, and this is the tune that I'm going to do. Now, if you have many Agadelchas, then you may be confused. So you need to be very careful but in order to remember that, you need to practice, I would say, a few times so that it'll come back. It will come back. So like Itzik said, in order for you to know that Haftarah, that's why the brachot are there in some way, is to give it as an introduction. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam. So it gives you an introduction to the Haftarah, right? And by the way, it's not only there. Give you another example. When you read the parasha,
I don't prepare myself most of the time. I have a list. Are you familiar with Yossi Azulai, the wedding in Venice? He uses not Pavarotti.
Yeah. אשר ברא ששון ושמחה, חתן וחלה. כן.
No,
So,
but I think, Sami, what we need, probably we need a list. Maybe one of the outcomes from these classes will be that we'll have a list.
But you can make it very easy. You can make
Yeah.
things very easy. It doesn't have to
Few
be
options
complicated.
for the Kaddish, few options, I
Exactly.
mean, and then
Exactly.
you can pick, you can have it on the Teva, and but Rabbi, for more advanced people, I don't know about all the all the hijab, how to.
no, I don't know. I don't know the hijab. I don't know.
No, but Rabbi will told us how to connect between the melodies if you are doing Shavat Aniyim and you are doing El Adon
Oh,
and
okay. So
Kaddish,
okay.
how to coordinate all of them together and not, sometimes you're singing
So
about Jerusalem and sometimes you're singing from.
If you're Chaval, Itzik, Chaval, you're not in Israel, but I would, there's a friend of mine, a colleague of mine, and I strongly recommend, even though it's Yerushalmi, but I strongly recommend those that want to really understand how the music works. You see, the makam is an octave. It's like going up a ladder, right? You start from the bottom and you go up on the top. Every makam has its base and has its top. And of course, obviously, it has its middle as well. What happens in between, from the top to the bottom, you could always merge and do other things. But the rule is you must always come back to the roots. Now, before going to what happens between the top and the bottom, right, and to try to bring other tunes in between, that's a different level. But what is important, in order to get to that, before getting to that, you need to know the bass. And the bass, there's something called in the Yerushalmi, which is called, there's a book of CDs. It's called Nishmat Kol Chai, which is composed by a friend of mine. His name is Hazzan Ephraim Avidani. He actually studied Rabbanut with me 30 years ago, and his colleague Tzion Yechezkel. They both composed 8 makamim based on Shabbat Nigunim. If you look at it again, this is based on Yerushalmi. Okay. It can be used, by the way, it can be used. There's a lot of good tunes there that is based on each makam. For example, the first makam that you have is called Rast. Rast, and we have that in the Moroccan as well. Rast comes from the word head, which means it's the beginning, it's the head of all the makamim. There's the basics, again, from all of that, and from there you go to others. But there's 8 major makamim, and then you amalgamate, you merge one to the other, but you need to always come back to the source. So I strongly, those who are interested in buying those CDs, I don't mind putting you in contact with Rav Ephraim Avidani, who composed these CDs. They're amazing. I use them all the time. It's nice. It's very good. The next step to that is called within the Bakashot of Yerushalmi, and they have it a lot of major chazanim such as Moshe Chabusha, David Deryachi, Zichron Levacha, and many other paitanim in the past that have been part of this project. And it's called Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat. It has, I think, like 20 recordings, and that goes based on the parasha, just like we have in the Moroccan, from Parashat Bereshit till Parashat Zachor, which covers every parasha and within the mood of the Shabbat, based on the parasha. So that's the bakashot. That's a separate level. We're not there yet, but I think what's very, very essential is to know the basics. Once you have that and you master the basics, and then everything else is easy. Why? Because you will never fall back. It's just like you're teaching a child how to walk. You can't teach him how to run if he never knew how to walk. And this is exactly what we're learning, is learning those baby steps in order to form the foundation to our home. And that's what you're building. You're adding a brick every day, a little knowledge, a little bit more, a little bit more, and a little bit more. And the more you listen to music, the more you listen to this one and the other one, then you could start merging and putting the puzzle together. And that's what music is all about, is to have that openness and learn of everything and being able to put it together. I'll give you an example. This past Shabbat, I was invited to do, I did mincha, and I did our mincha, of course. It was in Moroccan synagogue, but I knew that there were people that were Yerushalmi. But our mincha is based on makam ajam. And what I did is I kept the core of the Moroccan tradition, yet in the middle, I played around a little bit and I made it a little bit sound like it was Yerushalmi, but I went back to the source. I finished exactly just like the Moroccan, just like I started. But I made people feel comfortable, those that were there, that they felt, he gave us our candy. You know, like if you know that there's an Ashkenaz person, so you give him a little bit of what he knows, and at least he feels at home. So, this is a Moroccan shul, and it remains, okay, it's true, we have the label that it's a Moroccan shul. But yet, if you give a person the feeling that he's at home, just by giving him a tune that he says, wow, it reminds me, like when I finish the service, somebody says, it reminds me of the house of my father. And that's exactly it. That's what we want. And it doesn't have to be a big thing. It could be something very, very simple. And that's what it takes. You don't have to sing every single piece. You can make it very simple and just give it that flavorish of either Moroccan and a little bit of Yerushalmi and Ashkenaz, and then people feel at home. And that's what it takes. That's what it takes. So I strongly recommend every one of you. I mean, I don't mind. I could share that with you, the contact, and you could get those 8 CDs. I'm telling you, number one, before the Hazzan sings, in each makam, first of all, he goes through Friday night and Shabbat morning, Shachrit and Musaf. He goes the major pieces. Let's say Friday night, he doesn't go over Lichun Leran and everything else, but he goes over Kaddish, he goes over Rauvanim, he goes over Igdal. Those are the major pieces. And that's basically it. And Shachrit, he does the same thing. He goes Nishmat, because the Chazan usually, the Yerushalmi, they start from Nishmat. So Nishmat, Shavat Aniyim, and then Kaddish, and he goes on Cheladon and Kedusha, and Musaf, he does the same thing, Kaddish again, and Keter, which is beautiful. But before he does that, before everything, there's someone playing the kanun, and he gives the whole octave, the whole thing of music, where it starts, where's the middle part, and where's the high part, so that the ear is used already to the sound of how to use it. And that's key. Once you have that, once you master that, the rest is easy. And then when somebody sings and you say, somebody tells you, Sami, can you give me a rust? You're gonna say, how am I gonna figure a rust? So if I know a tune that I know, right? So I relate to a tune that I know, which is Rust, and that's how I put 1 + 1 is 2. You understand? And the same thing, it could be for you, it could be that tune. Somebody else could have a different tune. Right? It could be different things. As well, Nahawan, Sahli, which we call for the Moroccan. Each one has a different la 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 la, right? So each one has a different tune that they relate and they as a reference to that makam, and that's how they learn the connection. Any questions?
No, but you're right, Rabbi. Let's stick to the basic. Probably.
No. I personally think the basics is, once you have the basics, everything else is in place. I promise you, it's going to be super, super easy. Once you get your ear used to the reading, the listening, because what happens now is each one is trying to, take a tune here and put it here and put it. It's nice, but it's not the puzzle. It doesn't fit. It may sound good. It may fit properly, but for example, I'll give you an example. If I say, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בנשמה נקבלה. זה Hijaz, right? For example, the same thing. Same thing. It's Hijaz. But I say, if I change it to that, it's like, what are you doing? It has nothing to do. Even though it's happy, they're both happy. It's a happy note, but one has nothing to do with the other. You understand? It's like, where did you bring that tune with this? It doesn't fit. But when you say, so always, whenever we start a song, it starts slow, and then you give a different beat, which it makes it faster in order to come to an ending, to make it happier and to come into an ending. You can't start happy and then make it slow, right? When you're dancing and there's live, everybody's dancing and happy, you can't change and make it, now let's make a slow dance. It doesn't fit. There has to be a beat. So the same thing in the music, you have to, there's family, it has to relate. You can't have dessert with your meat course. It doesn't fit. It's still food, right? It's tasty, they're both tasty, but each thing has its place. You understand? You need to have either your cocktails first, your hors d'oeuvres first, and then you have the fish, and you have your meat, and then you have your dessert. We can't start mixing everything together at your core. It doesn't fit, even though it looks tasty and it looks nice. So the same thing in music. Everything has to have its course. There's a building, there's a momentum that you're building, right? And that will go into the details. For example, when you're doing the Shema, for example, I'll give you an example, another quick example that we do, and I've noticed a lot of synagogues, the Moroccan synagogues, that do Asher bidvaro mahari varavim bechokma. It's a big mistake. When are we doing it? That's for Shalosh Regalim. The tune of that is Shalosh Regalim. It's not a Shabbat tune. Why do we do it a Shabbat tune? Because everybody's familiar with it, right? But I've been in a synagogue, I don't want to say, with one of the main famous singers on a Friday night, on the middle of the Friday night of the year, and he started singing, like, what are you singing? Is it Yom Kippur today? What is it today for you? And we have this, by the way, we're not far from there. We are not far from there. The Moroccans were not far from there. Why? Because if you take the Hallel, right? We do the same problem. We have the same issue. We say, Ma'ashiv Ladoshem Kol Tagmulo. We say it all year. We think it's all year Hanukkah. You follow what I'm saying? We think it's Hanukkah all year.
Yeah.
Nachon, Sami?
Ken, but we don't sing Hanukkah on Rosh Chodesh.
We do.
But no. Sami, do you hear what I mean? Do you hear what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. But
no, but Sami, Ma'ariv Aravim on Friday. Yeah, I saw it when I came to.
Yeah, but the reason the rabbi says the reason we sing it is because people that are not Paitanim, and we give them something that they know. That's all.
Fair. And by the way, just to add to that, just a little bit of history behind it. Karl Bach did the same thing. He learned from the Sephardic that he put a tune so that everybody is familiar, so that everybody should be able to sing together, right? He put a tune, and he wanted to learn from the Sephardim because we know how to pray, and the Ashkenazim don't know how to pray. They pray the first line and the last line. What happens in between? Who knows? If they say every word or they don't say anything. So to make people familiar with the text, says let's put a tune and let's make it live, let's make it happy, and that's what he did. So it became a Karl Bach Friday night service. But technically it came out from us because we know how to pray. We learn how to pray. Every Sephardi that you take wherever he is, he knows how to take a book and he knows how to pray, right? And that's a key thing. So those are things that we need. But on the other hand, the Hazzan needs to know, you need to know where to put the tunes, right? If it's a tune of, we have our tunes, honestly. Like, for example, I don't want to say this, but when we go to a Shiva house, for example, right? Lichadodi is not the same Lichadodi that you would do, right? Nachon, Sami? The tune when someone goes to a Shiva house.
For the 3 weeks between the Shiva Asa Betamuz, we sing the Syrian Lechadodi.
Which is what?
Lechadodi, Likrat Kala.
Okay, which is fine. There's nothing wrong. But technically, there's no Shabbat, there's no Avilut in general. But when we go, for example, Sami, when we go, our Moroccan practice, when we go to a house of mourning, and you pray Friday night at a house of mourning.
Yeah, which Lechadodi? Which Lechadodi would you?
You know which two? Kala bene Shabbat nekabela shamor vezachor.
It's similar. It's similar.
Amon echad ushmo echad leshem
It's kind of
uri
fast.
veli.
Rabbi, remember
Simple and
what you are
fast
talking.
because it's
What you are talking, it's a
Nachon?
congregation that you have lot of Moroccans, but we don't have a big people, on Friday night.
I understand. I'm just saying what we have, even amongst the Moroccans, we have our own different practice. But I'm not going to go into all of this. What I'm trying to say is there's certain prayers.
I got you. I understand. Rabbi,
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you that Ephraim Avidani visited. He stayed in my house. He came many years ago. He came a few times to Magen David. Number one, I know him. He's a friend of mine. You can tell him hello from Sami Imar if you talk to him.
I will.
Number one. Number two, I left Israel 67, maybe 66 or 65. I was in a concert Motzei Shabbat of you mentioned Ashkenazik, what's his name?
Karl
Kalibach. Yeah. I was in his concert. Very interesting. No. I know the melody, but I use it, so I forgot.
Which is beautiful. But you see, to get people, I'm suggesting that for the congregation, in order to get people familiar with the tune, and that's what I did with many synagogues that I was, is I would take songs, simple songs like that, and whether if it's before the high holidays, especially before the high holidays, and I would teach them during Seudah Shlishit, so that when they come to the synagogue, you have already a core of people that will join you and do those tunes. It makes it much, much, much easier to have 10 people joining you than you being by yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because
it will happen. It will happen, Magen David.
Of course it will happen. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
It's just what I'm trying to say is you could do it, and it could be a very simple thing to do. During Seudah Shlishit, just guys, let's open a Siddur and let's learn a Lechadodi together. And and that's how you do it. Or you do a Nishmat Kol Chai. Let's learn Nishmat Kol Chai. And people will learn, and it's going to come back to their mind. So that Be'ezrat Hashem, when you do it in front of the tzibur, the congregation, it's something that they're familiar with. And that's why we're very fortunate when it comes to the slichot. We do it 30 days, right? So it gives, when we go inside the Rosh Hashanah Kippur, we're familiar already with all the El Melech Yoshev al Kisei Chachamim and all the tunes, right? It's something that we're familiar with.
Slichot, and I'm very proud of Slichot Magen David. Honestly, good participation, very good participation.
That's amazing.
And everybody knows the melodies. It's good. Yes, Slichot is very good.
That's great. That's very, very good.
Rabbi,
a few examples for Shabbat before we have about we have another few minutes. So just a few melodies maybe for Shabbat.
So Shabbat, I'd say, for example, Mizmor LeDavid, I would always do something that everybody would know. right? Mizmor LeDavid Havu L'Hashem Ben Elim. There's a lot of them. There's
So Sami, maybe it's time for us to change Mizmor LeDavid.
which one do you normally do?
Many.
מזמור לדוד, אהבו לאדוני.
That's perfect. That's perfect. That's fine.
No,
that's
that's
fine.
good, but we need another one.
Well, there's the Turkish one. Mizmor LeDavid Havu L'Hashem Ben Elim Havu. It's a beautiful one, but you need someone to lead it, and then the congregation comes in as well. Or is it the classic one? You know the one that we normally did in Morocco, which was Achama Merosh Hailanot Niset Aleka Bo'u Venetze Nikrat Shabbat HaMalka. אתה מכיר, סמי, את זה?
כן, אני מכיר אשכנזים.
הנה
That's from Chaim Nachman.
בואי
זה מזמור לדוד?
אמרת שלום עליכם מלאכי השלום מזמור לדוד אהבו לעמוני
זה אנחנו עושים בשבת.
אהבו, it's beautiful. It's very,
Yeah, we sing that.
That's what we're doing on Shabbat.
We sing that, yeah.
So
Yeah,
we have one for Shabbat and one for Friday evening.
And then you have the Lecha Dodi. Then Lecha Dodi, there are many Lecha Dodi. You could do Lecha Dodi of, the classical one of Moroccans one. Lecha Dodi.
No, I don't agree.
Well, we're missing that, yeah.
I don't agree.
Why not?
אין לנו
What
פייטנים.
do you agree?
אין לנו פייטנים.
No, no פייטנים. Everybody together. That's Sami.
No, I use melodies. No, I use melodies of Joamar, Shalom Leben Dodi.
You could do Eli Luzon. Lecha Dodi. Likrat Kala.
No, the classic one, the previous one.
Lecha Dodi. Likrat Kala. You could do that. You could do that. Or you could do Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala.
Yeah,
No, but Rabbi, go to the previous one, the first one.
בן הר פרת והחידקל. לך דודי לקראת קלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Rabbi, can you do the first one, the classic one?
Yeah. לך דודי לקראת
Cannot agree. I don't agree. I don't agree with
Sami. You don't have to do each one separately. You don't have to give each one to do one. You could do that if you have
מכירים את
people.
זה, אתם לא מבינים. לא להמשיך אפילו. לא מכירים.
ילמדו.
The same way that you do the tune of Lecha Dodi Likrat Kala. One you do low and one you so the same thing. Lecha Dodi Likrat. You could do
אין מילה שלי.
You could do one
שמור וזכור בדיבור.
אחר כך אתה מחליף.
אבל איך אנחנו נזכור אותו? אנחנו לא, בגלל שהוא לא מחובר לשום שיר, it's not connected to any song, so we cannot remember it.
אבל לאט, חביבי. Put the dish on. לאט. So, there has to be someone leading it, that's for sure.
No, of course, but we don't know how to start it. Maybe Sami can.
You have to hum it. Somebody has to run it. Somebody has to be the leader. לאט.
Okay, so we need I don't know 4 or 5 Lecha Dodi. What else do we have? קדישים, קצת קדישים.
Kadishim is a little bit complicated. It's a little bit complicated. It takes more skills. In the Kaddish, it takes more of a skill. You have to relate.
Sami, why we are skipping Kadishim? We are doing Ad B'chayachon, and then we are skipping the Kadishim. We are not doing the full Kaddish.
Which one?
Okay. I can make.
In Kadishim, we are doing just B'chayachon, and then all the rest without any melody.
Why?
I can make full Kaddish.
Why? I don't know why. Because I don't know. We need to
No, you
know.
can still do it. You can still do it. That's not true.
No, we need to do the full Kaddish.
Exactly. The Yerushalmi does. They always do the first half, and then they finish off quickly. The Moroccan, we always did the whole thing.
And then we need to know where to start Veitale, Veitalal, all of this one.
It depends where the tune is. Depends which tune. It depends which tune. Which tune. So you have to choose a tune. You could do on Yotzer Miyado.
And also going back to the Kaddish, Shirata v'Tishbechata, you need to say together, right? Together. And also, I don't know why in Magen David they are separated, these two, and then the end of the Kaddish is not good.
It depends the tune. It depends. Again, I need to hear it. I need to hear who does what, and then I could say what's wrong, and then we could hear. We could learn from each other and say, well, here this is well done. As maybe next class, maybe Itzik, you want to do it, or Sami wants to do plan a Kaddish, each one of you, and then plan if you want to plan the Kaddish for Friday night. I want to hear how you lead Friday night, and then I'll tell you what's my input on that. And I want to hear everybody else, what do you think? And then I'll tell you what I would do. I think that's important. Let's try to do that.
Good. And we would like to hear you as well. Okay, very good.
Vadai. No, that's for sure. What I would recommend is for each one of you to do something, and then I could hear it, and then I could say, no, it was well done because it fits in properly. Remember what we said, the Hazzan creates the tune and the ketzev and the rhythm. If there's no rhythm, obviously you will not fall in the right words. You need to make sure that there is a rhythm. Once there's a rhythm, then you know there's a beginning, there's a middle, and there's an end. But if there's no rhythm, so akol mebulbal, everything is mixed up.
Rabbi, we have to accommodate the other members like Ashkenazim. We have we have Egyptian. We have Kurdim. We have to accommodate everybody.
Sami did yesterday. Ata echad v'shimcha echad.
So you could do. I would suggest. So what I would suggest, since you have Egyptians, right? So I would suggest like Saturday morning, Shabbat morning, you do Nishmat Kol Chai. Sing the Nishmat Kol Chai, not the traditional Moroccan. It has a nice tune, but I think the Yerushalmi.
I have the tune for Egyptian.
But that's a Fatsuri. Can you do it? You can do Nishmat with that, no?
Yes, of course.
I don't think Nishmat. No.
What are you doing for Nishmat, Rabbi Sultan? What are you doing for Nishmat?
There's a lot of Nishmat. You have Nishmat. Again, it depends the makam that you do. You have, right? So if you say, for example, if you take, for example, Ajam, right? That's the one that I just did now.
But the problem is that we don't know what is Ajam, and we don't know what is under Ajam.
So I'll make you hear. I'll prepare a few tunes, not the tune, but you'll hear how the makam of Rast sounds like, and then you'll understand where things fall. How does it work? And then but again, you need to build the ear. The ear needs to get used to that tune, and then once you build that tune, and you hear the other tunes a few times during the week, so then you could relate that tune to the basics, the foundation to all the other tunes, the same family. And it could be it doesn't have to be, like I said before, it doesn't have to take a makam that goes to another one. You keep the same family, the same thing, right? You're eating the same meat. You're eating only meat. You're not having fish. You're not having dessert. You're eating meat. That's what you're having. So that's exactly what you're doing. You're having makam rast, and you're processing rast all week long. That's all you're listening. So when you're doing it, you know that, oh, I know this. I don't know anything. But you have to make yourself. You have to train yourself, discipline yourself. This is what I know. And you have to make as though as you forgot everything else. Then you build slowly, you go to the next step. Then you go to Ajam. And then slowly you build to the next one, Hijaz, Nahawan, and you build. And then you build your encyclopedia of music. It takes time. It's not overnight. That I could guarantee you. It's not overnight.
Okay. Very good.
Hey, gentlemen. So
okay, very good. סמי, כמה בבייסבול, סמי?
הם הפסידו, הנשיונל הפסידו לאוריול. אני לא הייתי במשחק. לא הייתי במשחק, אבל הבן שלנו הזמין אותנו.
Rabbi, you mentioned some
מסעדה כשרה בבלטימור, קוראים לזה סרנגטי.
Rabbi, you mentioned like an anecdote concerning being a Shaliach Tzibur or a Hazzan.
Yes.
And sometimes I am the Hazzan and the Shaliach Tzibur in the Chabad synagogues.
Okay.
So one of the things that I noticed, especially not only Chabad, but Ashkenazi as well, they sometimes, because of the influence of Yiddish, they put the accent in the penultime syllable. So they will do things that sound strange to me. And whenever I'm a Chazan, I never do this. Like they will say ve'achalta et Adonai Elokecha, and it's ve'achalta. And I always make sure that whenever I'm doing that, I do it the correct way. But their ear is not accustomed to it, so they actually do notice the difference.
Yeah, I mean, don't forget the pronunciation. Obviously, it's different.
Mm-hmm.
Our pronunciation and their pronunciation is different, but I think the foundation, if you have the concepts in place, the skills in place, there's no reason wherever you go, everything is going to be comfortable. You'll be fine. I've been in many places. I could tell you this year I'm here in Israel in this minyan, and it's beautiful. This is the first experience that I had in Tisha B'Av that I literally closed my eyes. And you would listen to young fellow, students in their earlies, I'd say maybe 20s, 30s, and I closed my eyes and you would hear them sing all the kinot, one tune after the other. It's not there's a leader. Of course, there's someone that starts, but you could hear the flow of the tune one after the other. And I really enjoyed it. I'm telling you, I mean, you're going to say you enjoyed kinot.
I did it in Ashdod. I did it a week ago in Ashdod.
It's tremendous. It's
amazing. The Hazzan just start the first word. That's all.
Exactly. And they were like you open the faucet and the water was pouring, it was flowing, and you hear hundreds. You know what it is? Hundreds.
I know. Hundreds. We know in Magen David. We know just Madua be'elel Pesach.
Listen, it's beautiful. Whatever.
No, I know, but there is 40 of them. I don't know.
Right. Anyways, it was a pleasure.
We are lucky that we have Sami. That is, he teaches us all the very good.
Yes,
Sami, you are on mute. Sami, unmute, and we're going to say good night for the Hazzan, and we're going to meet next week at 4.
So I see there's some chats. I just saw this now.
People would like to get a lot of homework, so
feel free. Anybody who wants to communicate with me privately, by all means, and have private lessons or anything, feel free to call me, and I would love to help you and guide you to your needs. Okay.
Excellent. See you
Thank you
next
so much.
week at 4 p.m.
And my sympathy
Thank you, Rabbi.
to Jacob, my sympathy to your brother, your loss of your brother. I'm sorry to hear the loss, and we wish you and comfort to you and your family. All the best.
Just
Nice to see you.
unfortunately, not a good news for
Yes,
our
yes.
community, but Miri Mesika lost her sister. Her
Ooh.
sister passed away a day ago, yesterday in Israel, by the way.
Oh, wow.
So we're going to send an email with condolences, but just to let you know, all of you.
Wow.
And yeah, Cairo,
Okay.
everything is okay. Cairo, unmute, Cairo.
Everything's okay, Yixik. How you doing? I didn't say hi to you this morning. I apologize. Oh, there's Sammy's family. Hey, the Yingmon. Hey,
Nice to
Sammy,
see
how you
all.
doing?
Amazing, amazing.
We have a question.
Go ahead.
So if we are beginners, obviously, and we want to know how to become a Hazzan or learn tunes for you, so we contact you privately.
Absolutely. You could call me, send me a text or email. By all means, we could communicate. You have my contact as well on my WhatsApp. Feel free to communicate.
Okay. And
Okay.
what's a good beginning method, like reading Psalms or reciting Psalms in the morning?
Excuse me?
Would it a good method to learn how to improve your voice is to recite Psalms in the morning?
So that I could tell you privately. Each one is different. You always take something, a tune that you're familiar with, and you make as a warm up. It could be something very, very simple. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to sing an opera piece. You could just sing something very simple, and it could be humming. It could be something just to wake up all this area, and you'd be surprised what you could get in singing.
Right, because I know that you.
Okay. So feel free. Anybody who would love to communicate or get some more tips, feel free to reach out to me. All right.
I have to go. Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
All the best. Take care. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.